Ladies and gentlemen, actually this is take 2 of Ladies and Gentlemen. This is Rock Out Loud Live or Rock City Central, and I met this very, very special guest. Her name is Vanessa, and when I met Vanessa, you could see that she does everything, and she's constantly giving. We met through the EDC, I think Alexandra told me all about her, and just a little bit of research brings up a whole broad spectrum of what she does. So we're going to talk all about that today. And she's got a great story. We have a lot in common that I didn't bring up when we met, but we're going to go over today.
Amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Vanessa Copus.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. Now you have your YouTube friends and actually your Facebook friends.
Yes, Facebook for sure. Yeah.
So I met you, and we kind of really aligned because the first thing you said was, I want to give back and I want to help.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of person I am. So we're very aligned that way. And then when I started learning about you, by the way, you're not born in America, Dominican Republic.
I'm originally from the Dominican Republic.
2006, 18 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you came in, you became a school teacher.
Well, I was a school teacher in the Dominican Republic.
Really?
Yes. And when I moved here, that was one of my first jobs. I was tutoring and I was teaching ESL. Yes.
And I was a teacher too.
Really?
Yeah, I taught in Brooklyn. I taught,
my God, amazing.
Social studies.
Yeah.
But in Brooklyn, in 9th grade, social studies is a rough
I was
one.
teaching in Brooklyn and I was teaching foreign exchange students.
Wow, where in Brooklyn?
Oh my God, it was a language school. I was 18 years ago. I'm aging myself. I don't remember. But it was one of my first teaching jobs here.
Everybody should start in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean,
Vanessa?
it was amazing. I mean, but in Brooklyn now today is unbelievable. It's like the up and coming,
It is the
borough.
whole Williamsburg movement.
Yeah. So,
absolutely.
But teaching, period, is a profession of service. So that's where I come from, for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what I was really fascinated about was when you came in, you actually on your website, it says you dealt with postpartum depression.
I did.
That's important. So the reason why I thought you were so important to be on here is through the research, you come in, you immigrate from the Dominican Republic, right? Did you speak English well at that point?
I did. I was actually an English teacher in the Dominican Republic. That's what I did for almost 17 years. Yes.
And then you come here.
And then I came here for love.
Oh, was that really?
I did. I came for love. I met my husband actually online.
Did you?
And I did. We met in 2005, and we courted each other for about 6 or 7 months. Met in person, and then in 2006, he said, "It's either we do this or." Because it was a very hard to just carry out a long distance relationship. So
in 6 months you were moving.
In about 7, I was here.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
Did you have family back there?
My mother is still there. I have brothers, and basically my whole immediate family is still back in the Dominican Republic.
You picked up and just left.
I did. Quit my job, left. I had my own apartment, my own car, my job. Everything that you work towards. As a professional, I had it, and then my husband Josh came into my life and wanted to create a life together.
Okay, so for everybody who's listening right now, what do you have to do as a man to convince a woman to move in within 7 months? What was it about Josh?
Josh is number one, very family oriented, and has an immaculate work ethic, which is something that I truly admired.
I want to ask you about that too. Keep going.
Yes, and he treated me like a queen. Like he really just reminded me a lot of just how I was brought up with regards to what a relationship would look like. But something, my gut told me like, okay, there's a connection here, and it just. He wanted a family. He wanted to, do life with someone, which is where I was at also in my life. So, we decided to I literally just jumped. It was very scary, not only moving to a new country, but leaving my entire family, leaving my...
What did they say? Your family go, are you nuts?
My father thought I was insane. Literally laughed in my face. I said, "You're coming here to tell me that you're moving in with a man that you met online? How does that even work?" But then he met my husband. He met him. My father was actually terminally ill from cancer when he ended up meeting my now husband. But and he was always a great judge of character. So when he met Josh, he said, "I'm sick. This is your life. You have to make, tough decisions now." And he seems like he is loves you and wants to do this with you. And I didn't know like they had like that conversation before he passed.
Wow.
So it was really beautiful to know that, my dad met him and that he gave me his blessing. So I've always been a risk taker, calculated to a certain extent, but risks have always excited me. And because I believe that the universe always conspires to give you what you want. Alchemist, by the way, if you've never, that's my favorite book. And that's how I've always lived my life. And, when people tell me you do all these things and you accomplish all these things, is because I have like blind faith in that the universe is going to catch me wherever I land if I have the courage to just go for it.
But you also have so much in terms of yourself. Like you have a lot of confidence. You also have a lot of...
But that's now.
Really?
Yes. I was never like this. I was very shy in high school. People tell me this all the time.
Wow.
I was social within my immediate group of friends. But I remember having a teacher, we go back to teaching, telling me one time in high school, he said, you have a very special gift of bringing people together. And he said to me, that's going to serve you well in life because not everyone has that gift. And I didn't really understand what that meant. I mean, I was 15, 16, I was like, okay. But I was very shy. I hated getting in front of crowds. I think teaching gave me the confidence to just be able to stand up in front of groups of people. Sure. And now the career that I'm in, I mean, I would be remiss to say that I don't feel confident. And I've had people tell me over the years that I light up when a camera comes on. And honestly, it just goes to show that I'm very passionate about telling other people's stories and sharing that and giving. So that's what excites me. We were talking about this briefly before we went live. This isn't ego driven. It comes from being of service and of telling other people about amazing things and amazing people. So that's where it comes from. Yeah.
So there's so much that you do. I guess what I want to ask you is, because you do so much, we're type A's. Would you admit that we're type A people?
A little bit.
And for those of you who don't know what type, we're always driven, right?
Yes.
It's been tough for me, I know personally, to juggle family life.
And sometimes to turn that off, right? Because it's very challenging.
Do you have a cure for that? Because I still haven't
There's
found
not a cure. I will say this. With time, my husband has forced me to take a step back. Sometimes, thankfully, because of the career that I'm in, one of the perks is I get to go and travel, right? I get invited by resorts that want us to go check it out. And he'll say to me, he's like, if that means that you're going to constantly be taking pictures, talking to people, working, then that's not vacation.
That's true.
So pick and choose,
Right.
And he's like, when we're on vacation, we're on vacation. There's no phone, there's no cameras out, you have to be and he's helped me kind of realize that over time.
I still struggle with that.
And it's because when you own your own business,
I know.
It's no one honestly outside of this cares, right?
That's
you're always on
exactly
because it's yours.
Yeah.
But I also, with time, have learned that at some point you have to give yourself grace because you also have to be well.
You're right.
You have to be healthy. You have to be on point also to be able to lead a team of people. So
is Josh an entrepreneur?
My husband is very much a 9-to-5er.
So he doesn't get the
entrepreneur, but I also think that's what makes us work, right?
My wife is the same way.
He
agree.
needs to know when he's coming home, he needs to know, have all, his I's dotted, his T's crossed. Entrepreneurship is a very volatile.
I know. It's stressful.
It is very stressful. Lonely. There's so many things we could say, but I always say the flip side of that is that you own your time.
That's true.
And you are able to set the tone. I told you too earlier, my day started out a little bit earlier, but I'm able to do that. I didn't have to check in with anyone I'm going to be late or I'm running late.
That's true.
I could, take my time this morning to get ready, do what I needed to do in order to be able to then show up. Yeah. So that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, I think.
Which is important. So I want to get to your books and stuff.
Yeah.
But you do things for people that most entrepreneurs don't do. And I love that about you because I'm very similar to that. This whole podcast isn't about anything but you.
Yeah,
But when I saw you did this, I'm like, you're like the podcast version of me. But let's talk a little bit about this because there's a lot of things in here. But the one thing I do want to ask, because I did a lot of studying about you.
Oh my gosh.
Are you only about women and beautiful looking guys, because
my
you have like these 3 guys on your
no.
website that work for you, very handsome guys, and then you get all these beautiful women. I'm like, is this a woman-based business with a couple of guys who happen to have
beautiful people tend to gravitate towards what we do.
Yeah, I totally
I mean, it is I want to say that it's the industry, but at the same time, you know, I think that we have a really great array of people from different cultures, different sizes, different
You have 3 men, by the way. I counted 3 men.
In my
I count on your website.
On my web, well, there's a few more.
Okay.
There's a few more behind the scenes. But yeah, no. But honestly, I mean, we are a lifestyle publication. We are a lifestyle brand. Obviously, women do tend to gravitate more to that. Mm-hmm. But we do get our share of men who are into self-care, who want to know about fashion, who want to know about, you know, where should I be taking my lady out to dinner, or what should I be getting her for her birthday or for Christmas. So those are the types of men that we get also to, you know, engage with us. But yeah, we're not just women driven.
I thought it was a women driven, like,
no,
Bella.
not at all. No.
So if you ever want to do
so
this.
Bella initially, because I acquired the brand Bella Magazine in 2019. To your point,
what made you want to do that? Because
I was already in the business and I knew it.
Well, let's talk about what your business is, because a lot of people might do it.
So originally I'm a blogger. I'm a writer. That's what I am at my core. My community, the community that I've built, the people that I've engaged with over the past almost 17 years have been through my blog, Vanessa Capes, because I've shared when I had, you mentioned me suffering from postpartum depression. That's what helped me actually get out of it. Writing, engaging with other women, because I never wanted to be considered a mommy blogger. I know at that time that was like the thing and it was the trend. However, I was raised by a very strong woman and I wanted to also have a career. You know, motherhood was not the only thing that defined me. So to that end, I got very good at digital marketing, and when the previous owners and I met through mutual connections, they brought me on as their digital marketing director. So that's what I did, and I did that for small businesses. I helped them basically from soup to nuts, create a logo, create a branding package, create a strategy, and what to do. Okay, now that we have these assets, what do we do with that? Well, we place them here, we market them this way, and we are going to create your website, and we can blog. To me, blogging, it should be at the core of everyone's...
for SEO purposes...
For SEO purposes alone,
it's true.
It is amazing, but also you have the opportunity to just share your perspective and have a voice out in the internet about your brand and your company that nobody else should have but you.
That's true. And the knowledge that you can share gives you some sort of foundation. Like, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Of course.
You know, it's so funny. I'm doing a thing, I think it's this Thursday.
Yeah.
And it's an event, and it's talking to most business owners. Okay. They don't realize the importance of a website above the fold. They don't even know what above the fold means.
To this day, and people ask me this all the time, and now I own a platform that engages with over 500,000 people on a monthly basis. I still have a blog, and I still write my own blog.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, just like you said, when people Google Vanessa Capes, what I want them to find is me, my voice. And, and it's very refreshing when I meet people that have been following me, whether it's through my own blog or social media. When they meet me in person, they're like, you're exactly as you write on your blog, because that's always how I've written. Yeah. And to your point, the magazine itself the format is based on how I blogged, right? Because it should be conversational. I don't think anyone wants to be spoken to. They want to be engaged, and they want to be kind of, I want people, when they pick up one of our magazines, whichever one, they feel like they're talking to a friend. And that I feel like that's the best camaraderie and the best way to recommend a product or a service.
100%. Yeah. But you take it to that, and we're so similar because we think of quality too.
Yes,
This is not a cheap piece of print.
No.
It's not thin paper. It's heavy cardstock.
Yeah.
It's all color.
Yeah.
Everything is in color.
It's perfect bound.
Yes.
Which is what, yes.
And you do this for free, don't you?
I do.
I mean,
I do. The Around Town, yes. Our main books are subscription based.
The Bella stuff, yes. I've seen that.
But Bella Around Town is basically, our gift to entrepreneurships. It's I always like to say this is the marriage between a success magazine and an entrepreneur that is accessible to small businesses, because I don't know if you remember if you've ever been featured or highlighted in any type of press material, that feeling, of validation that you get.
That's so true. You know, it was Palm Sunday.
Okay.
My cousin went to, I think he went to Wegmans.
Okay.
And he calls me up. He goes, dude, you're on the cover of the Asbury Park
Oh
Press.
my God, that's
I'm like,
amazing.
Holy
Yes.
smokes, that was for my Rock Out Loud Live thing during COVID.
Yes.
But yes, it's elating. I mean, holy smokes.
It's one of those feelings of, oh my God, what I have is actually real.
Yes.
People want to know more about it, and
it's legitimate now.
It's legitimate, and also it fuels you, and it gives you the motivation that you need. You know, speaking about loneliness as an entrepreneur, and also self-doubt, because sometimes you're like,
I know.
am I out of my mind? What did I decide to do?
Yeah.
You know, you asked me like, what made you do that? Honestly, I always tell people it was a knee-jerk reaction. Like, I knew the business. I had done practically every role in the magazine except for print, actually physically printing it. So it was a no-brainer. It was like, okay, I really am not reinventing the wheel here. I can just enhance it with certain aspects of what, things that I wanted to include.
Right.
So, and that's what I did.
So now the Food Emporium.
Yes.
How do you get onto a magazine like this? And do you have them pay for the public? How does this all work?
So the Food Emporium was, it was a full circle moment for me and for them. I actually spoke to Mike and Danny, who are the owner's sons, who decided to start the Food Emporium. When they opened up 6 years ago in Marlboro, I was there opening day, and I was the one covering, because through Bella I was covering their grand opening. And lo and behold, through the EDC, Alexandra connected us, because I had an event that was coming up, and I obviously I shop at the Food Emporium, and I'm like, I need them to cater. I want them to cater, and I also felt like there was like this untold and untapped story there. I don't think people understand. If you've never been to the Food Emporium, and if you do go, the sense of community that you get when you walk into the super. It's not like your typical grocery store.
That's right.
They say hello. Everybody says hello. Everybody greets you, and I happen to love that.
Me too.
I love a handwritten note. I love a good morning.
What
I
about
love
an applause when you walk in through the doors?
Which I literally walked in through your doors, and I stood for a moment, and I was like, let me take it in.
Vanessa.
Let me take it in, which is amazing. Because
Insane.
those little things, I think, do things to people that
100% right.
we've lost kind of touch. We live in such a digital world and in such a scroll world that, those are touch points that are just humanizing, right? Like they give you that sense, oh my God, like we're not just doing this for the sake of it. There's meaning to it. And they take so much care in their customer service that I felt like their story needs to be broader and really brought again to the forefront, so that people really understand. Because when I walked in there, even on a Sunday morning, one of those brothers is there, opening, closing, making sure that things are looking good, always good. Yeah.
So how do these get, distributed? Where?
So they are the Bella Around Town, which is the small business, targeted one, gets distributed through our subscribers, but also it's like a drop ship. I will drop off to businesses that we've highlighted, so that people can just share
Great.
Yeah, they can just share. They were featured in the Around Town.
Wow.
So the distribution is similar to Bella, but again, it's targeting small businesses. It was something that was necessary, because as I'm sure as you're building a business, this is, getting featured, getting highlighted.
It's not easy.
It's not only is it not easy, but again, it's so important to keep those juices going and that motivation flowing.
True.
So,
well, let's thank Alexandra. She's been amazing.
Oh my God, Alex is unbelievable, for sure.
You text her, she's already responding before you even hit send, which is great.
Yes.
We need somebody like that in Marlboro to be the voice, because we're busy doing our thing, and she's trying to wrangle us up to make this community more of a community.
100%.
That's my strength. My challenge is, like, Marlboro has been very difficult to penetrate.
Yeah.
Manalapan, Freehold, Monroe, Old Bridge, they're welcoming us. Come on in and perform, do all this stuff. Marlboro won't even answer your calls. Alexandra now hopefully she's going to fix that, but she's great with communication, and I think she's part of what we're all about as entrepreneurs.
100%. And I believe that she's going to accomplish it for sure.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. So you have, by the way, you have Pix 11.
Yes.
So are you like a guest there all the time? How does that work?
It's going to be 2 years now that I am a monthly contributor. So I'm considered just a lifestyle contributor for the channel. And I just come in and talk about, topics that we've touched on some of our issues, whether it's our cover story or if it's something seasonal, like what to do during the summer, where to eat out, where to work out, where to enjoy free things to do with the family while you're in the city.
Is that just for New York City?
It's tri-borough. So New York, New Jersey, and Staten Island. Staten Island, I mean, obviously Staten Island is part of New York, but
yes,
it's very Staten Island focused.
Oh, I have a music school in Staten Island.
Oh, do you really?
Yes, it's on Giffords Lane, Staten Island School of Rock.
Okay.
And it's a totally different world from New York.
Yeah. When I met my husband, that's where we lived. We lived there for 8 years.
Wow, where in Staten Island?
We lived in Great Kills and then Heartland Village.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Trader Joe's opened and we just skedaddled. We were like, okay, this is game over.
That was on Richmond Avenue, I think.
Wow. Yes.
Small world. Now you ended up in Marlboro.
And now I ended up in Marlboro.
Wow, we did very, very similar. So I'm just curious. You do so many things. What is your favorite thing to do? And whether it's Pix 11 podcast, is it Bella Around Town, is it Bella Magazine, Latino stuff?
Talking, sharing stories, sharing war stories, especially. I feel like
give me a war story.
Oh my God, there's so many. COVID.
Okay.
It will be the perfect example. So many publications were going out of business. They were jumping, and my clients were jumping ship.
Wait, when you bought it in 2019?
I bought it in 2019, and 8 months later, COVID happened.
I opened in 2019, 5 months later.
Yes.
So how did you?
So incredibly, we did something that we had been wanting to do, which was merchandise. Mm-hmm. T-shirts, hats, mugs, and I cannot begin to tell you, and I don't know if it was for the sake of pity that people took upon us because they didn't want us to close down, but selling merchandise was what got us through.
How did you get merchandise though? Because a lot of places were closed down.
But I got them online. I was able to set up a shop online and having things shipped directly to people, because that's why we distribute directly to consumers, because people stopped going to bookstores, but they still were reading. The readership went up.
Yes.
Over 80% during COVID, because people did not want to leave their homes, but they needed something other than watch television. So our subscribers went up, our readership went up, and that's how we legitimate stayed in business throughout that time. And I was just marveled at it. I was like, okay, so you hear of these publications closing, yet here we are, and we're still kind of keeping the train going. But I also feel like we paved a different way of highlighting celebrities. Everybody has their own lane, and I stuck to mine. Right. We're not Vogue, we're not Vanity Fair, we're not we're not those public.
I love Bella Media. That name, it's a really it grabs you.
But we're Bella, and the way that we do it is we make it relatable, and we make it where there is a celebrity component, because it's exciting, and of course, if you have the ability the possibility of connecting with someone that you admire, there's that. However, when you read through the pages, you can see regular people doing extraordinary things, right? So that's what you want to read about, and that's what we include.
These magazines really highlight that stuff. Yeah. How many people do you have on a team for something like this?
I think we're hitting this. It's around 60 people, but we're nationwide. So I have people out in LA. I have my core group of people is incredibly, believe it or not, is here in New Jersey. And I have obviously people in New York, and I have in Miami also. So
gotcha.
And also the Dominican Republic, of course.
So we talked about this before we went live, and we talked about delegation. So as entrepreneurs, that's when my business started to grow. And you had said, because I said, how do you do all this stuff? And you delegate really well, you said.
I delegate really well now. I delegate really well now, and it took me, several years to really, oil that machine and oil it well. I think I do have to say, one of the proudest accomplishments that I have people who have, who left my during my 5-year tenure. It's my 5th year anniversary this year. Who left to pursue other opportunities, who are now coming back because they just loved working with us and the company. And it's really just says a lot about how we just work so well together. I like to think that I always tell my team, like, I'm not a boss. And you don't work for me.
I say the same thing.
I always say,
we work together.
You don't work for me, you work with me.
I say the same thing.
We're not.
I hate the word boss.
I hate the word boss. But but I can also be a boss, right? Like, so you
Right.
have to
You need to be a leader.
step into your
Yeah.
leadership role.
Yes, exactly.
But I love giving people agency and making sure that they feel like they are proactive and that their voice is heard and that their ideas are taken into account, which is why we have weekly meetings where okay, guys, this is what we have. These are the opportunities that are here. Where do you think we should go with this? And 9 times out of 10, I leave it up to them to decide, because ultimately, like, it's not one-sided. This magazine can't just be my perspective,
Exactly.
my voice. It's my team's. So, and we're all so different.
And the ownership of saying, this is part of me too.
Of course.
You just said something that I think it's so important for people to really grasp. You've been with people, they leave, they come back because they like the culture.
Yeah.
I'm in a field, music schools, where there are other music schools that say, I have a contract. If a teacher leaves, we terminate them.
Yeah.
There's a non-compete clause. If they take their students, we sue them. I'm like, holy smokes. Now, there are people that left to open up their own music schools.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Isn't it one of those greatest feelings
Yeah.
that somebody that's worked with you has the ownership now to spread their wings, to do what they want to do, and then you help them, and then they come back to you. Isn't that a gift?
It's such a gift, and I feel like,
100%.
and I'm glad we're touching on this, because I do make, my team members sign an NDA and all of the things. However, it is for the sake of professional courtesies, meaning everyone has the absolute right to go and pursue their own opportunities. Like, I don't own people, I don't own opportunities, and there are things that are going to inevitably overlap. If we're running in the same circles, you can't. But the thing is that I'm clear that I'm not the be all end all to everyone. There are other. It's like ice cream, right? I always compare it to ice cream. You don't just like vanilla. You can like chocolate, and you can like chocolate chip and mint, and like there's so many different flavors. Some people stick to one thing, and that's amazing, and that's everyone's right. And you can't control that. But to your point, it's about agency. When you give people the knowing that they are empowered to pursue other opportunities, and I have people on my team who work for multiple media companies, and I'm totally okay with that. And the conversation is had. They'll come to me and say, Vanessa, so and so approached me. We met at our event. What do you think? And I'm like, amazing. Now what you're going to do is, or what you should do, what I think you should do is this or that, but it's up to you, whatever you think is, the best course of action for you, not for me, for you. Because ultimately at the end of the day, they have to make,
That's true.
the best decision for them.
But to put that in context is, and I apologize,
Yeah.
and when I speak about that, it's because my business is the children business.
Yeah.
So if a child connects with a coach, we don't have teachers, we have coaches. It's a whole different it's a whole different podcast. But if they connect with a coach and that coach leaves, it would be terrible because it kind of defies everything I'm about. It's like, I'm not about, just the money and the business. I'm about making that child confident and giving them self-esteem. So if that means they have to leave to go with this coach because they get real comfortable with that coach, I just let them go. I'm going to lose some money, and it's just temporary, right? So it's one of those things where I totally understand why people sign NDAs, but I also understand that this is a children's business, and I think more about that child. So I totally get that. So as far as that goes, now to lead to the next part of this is that you also have a Latin.
Yes.
I mean,
Bella Latina, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to catch everything in a 30-minute episode, but how do you manage that? Because I saw on your website, it's English, you scroll down and then become Spanish.
Yes.
How do you manage and juggle both?
So, delegating to an incredible team. Obviously, I am not, how they say, like, you have to be an oxymoron to be able to kind of accomplish that and be able to multitask, but which I don't, because I don't believe in multitasking. I don't think anyone can effectively multitask.
I'm a terrible but good
However, I am a bilingual person. So being raised and learning in that way, I also know that there's a community of people that function in that space also. So there has to be room for all of us to get the information. And I also know that there's people here from different cultures who just don't speak English and they want to consume the content that we have. So how do you do that? You have to translate it. And anything that we share in Latina is to be of service to the Spanish speaking community, and it's in Spanish first. And that's how we do it. We may mix depending on if the talent speaks Spanglish. There's a little bit of English sprinkled here and there, and that's okay also. But we stay true to the fact that Spanish has the Spanish speaking language community has the right to consume that media, and we just are trying to get them to them in that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The very last part, I keep asking these questions
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people would get a lot from this. So you do marketing, and that
Yes.
was, you said you love marketing.
Oh, I do.
So a lot of businesses start out, they don't think they have to market,
Yeah.
and they don't realize how important it is.
Yeah.
We spoke a little bit about
Yeah.
SEOs and blogs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. If you were starting a business, let's say you're just brand new, what's the first thing you want to do in terms of marketing?
Oh my God. Understand your demographics. That is the
You
first.
are so smart. Because that's already what I'm saying. You gotta know. You gotta know
who you're talking to.
Yes.
You gotta know who you're talking to. And
Yes,
the
100%.
minute that you understand who you're speaking to, it will help you make clearer decisions about
Yes.
any opportunity that comes your way. Because then you're like, if you're invited to speak at X event, you're like, who am I speaking to? If if your demographic isn't there, is it really going to serve you? Are you doing it out of the kindness of your heart because you
Right.
want to give back to that community? Then amazing, but also don't go in there with the intention of selling, because that's going to land on deaf ears,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like once you get clear on that, decision making becomes just easier, and you can really map out a strategy for a long-term success. Because I feel like when you're starting out, we're throwing spaghetti at the wall and spending money on
You're right.
I mean, how many logos did you design? Because I know I designed about 4 or 5 in the beginning. You know what I mean?
And then you worry about the colors.
And then you're the colors, and then the font,
and the website.
and the website. And now I feel like I like green better than blue. You know what I mean?
I know.
And a brand is not built this way.
You're right.
When I always ask my clients when I'm working with them on marketing, I said, how many times has Nike changed its logo?
Not once.
Never. Because a brand is
That was
built.
a great book. Have you read that book?
I did, and I obviously watched the movie. But the thing is, a brand does not change. A brand is consistent, and you can tweak a few things, but you can't like change colors every 3 months, because now all of a sudden you like pink.
You're gonna confuse.
You're gonna
your
confuse
customers.
your customers. So the biggest thing is to be consistent, stick to it. That's why I always say you gotta fall in love with your logo, because that's going to be your brand forever and ever and ever. And stick to it and be consistent about putting it on in the same way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's great, because you're answering questions that in my head, I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So if somebody needed to find you in terms of your marketing expertise or even hire you, how do they find you? Because you're all over the internet, Instagram, Facebook.
In a good way. In a great way. I mean, obviously my website, vanessacoppes.com, but and there's a tab on bellamedia.co that also says Bella 360, which is our 360 approach to marketing and branding businesses. You can just go on there. I'm very personable and approachable.
You can see that.
On social, because some people think, like, who answers your messages? Me.
Yeah.
You're talking
Me
to me.
too. Yeah.
You're talking to me. You're not talking to a chat bot. You're not talking to anyone on my team. Even when you message us through Bella, I'm reading the messages. Because I come from a small business mindset, like, those are my people. I need to make sure that they're taken care of and feel like they're being listened to, and that's the best way to get me. I always tell people, just message me on Instagram, and we'll go from there.
Wow,
so
that's a great answer. So now I'm going to leave you with
Yes.
this. I end every one of the podcasts like this, and this is a little story about me and my dad. I love my dad. Awesome guy.
Amazing.
Great guy. But we both have a love for Mustangs, like classic Mustangs.
Yeah.
So I had gotten a 1966 Mustang convertible restored. It's in the garage. The garage door is going down. My dad and I are looking at it, and I'm like, Dad, I love that car. He's like, Mike, I was at church today, and the pastor, he had said something like, everything that we own in this world is going to be owned by somebody else one day. And it really dawned on me. It was like, what do you mean? I'm never going to sell this car. He goes, one day you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that one day was a few years ago, and you figure out what you're here for. Because if someone's going to own my shirt or Rock Out Loud, whatever it is, what's your legacy? So what do you want the world to remember, Vanessa?
Oh my God, what a great question. That I was here to be of service. I always go back to service. It's something that has been embedded in me through, how I was raised with my parents. it can't just be about us. My father used to always say, and I actually discovered that he got this quote from A Course in Miracles many years ago when I actually read the book myself, that in any given situation, good or bad, there's always something that you can do to make it be positive. And it takes one decision, and it should come from you, right? He would always say, don't leave it up to the other person. You make the decision to do the right thing. And it was always, and the right thing is the kind thing, right? So that's right. Where I always stem from, and I would hope that, that's what people remember me by, is just helpful, be of service, connector. I'm a huge I will introduce you. I'll make,
that's awesome.
I'll text you guys together, because ultimately that's what we're here to do for each other, is help each other out.
Yeah, so, the legacy thing.
That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful Vanessa, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.